Hey everybody, Eric Magidson here. This is the part one of the two-part lecture for chapter 2 for CIS244 systems analysis. This chapter is analyzing the business case. So first thing I want to point out, notice it says business case, not information technology solution. So it's imperative, although there's companies like, Amazon.com and eBay and Facebook that their information technology systems are the foundation of their company. The majority of businesses doing manufacturing, service, etc., information technology systems are there in support of their business. So we're going to use IT systems to help either grow the business, make it more profitable, increase the quality, increase the efficiency. So there's got to be that justifiable reason that we take on an IT project besides, boy, this is new technology and it just would be cool to do it. So I'm going to skip through the objectives here and go right on to the introduction. So the term business case refers to reasons or justification for a proposal. So why should we look at this project and place it in our project timeline as a viable project? Again, what does it come down to? It comes down to money. So we need to look at how much is this project going to cost? Is the technology available versus how much will the project make the company? So that difference becomes what's called a return on investment, and we'll talk more about that. I don't like the way this second bullet is worded, but essentially a strong business case suggests that we should do it, not pursue the alternative. A strong business case says if it's a stronger business case than other business cases, we should take it on first if, again, we have the resources, the time, and the technology to do so. Just because it's a strong business case doesn't mean we can go down that path. We may be missing a key ingredient to make the project worthwhile. So systems development typically starts with a systems request, followed by a preliminary investigation. So someone may request, from a company, gee, we need an artificial intelligence system. Well, right there in the preliminary investigation, we can go, wow, that's way too much money than this small business can spend or even has in capital to invest in a project. So right there, that might stop. But most of the time, you're going to do a feasibility study, figure out what the return on investment time is, what it's going to take, etc. In doing so, one of the standard frameworks in doing so is a SWOT analysis. So we look at the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, and threats of the project. So what is it that, what makes the project strong? What makes it weak? Do we have the right resources? If not, that might be a weakness. Is there an opportunity for growth? Is there an opportunity for increased profit? Is there an opportunity for efficiency? And then what are the threats if we don't? There are times that companies take on projects because they know competing companies are doing the same thing. But in doing so, they've got to know that they can beat to market or provide a better quality product or service or get more return on investment from the IT project. Now realize, although we're focusing on IT projects, everything we're going to talk about here also applies to just business cases. So even, business cases where we're not going to implement information technology. There's been many times that someone has said to me, Eric, as the IT director, look at this. How can we implement technology? And a lot of times I'd come back and say, we don't need a technology solution. What we need is a better business process. It had nothing to do with technology. Let me also remind you that when you're setting up goals and stuff, personal goals, business goals, etc., SWOT analysis is a good idea as well. Be honest and figure out your strengths and weaknesses. You can also do them on folks that are involved in projects. So again, look at the team members. What do they bring to the team as strengths, weaknesses? Is there an opportunity? Are there threats? Do you happen to know that this person's looking for another job? Do you happen to know that they're, being sought after? In which case, does the project, how do I put this? Does the project rely on them? If it does, 6 months into the project, if they leave, can you finish the project? A lot of times projects fail because of the people that end up leaving the project mid-project, so keep that in mind. IT systems development is sort of a strategic plan. Remember, we're going to plan. So for every project, come up with a mission statement. Now, companies have mission statements, but projects should have mission statements too. That way the participants know, where are we going? What is the end goal? Define the stakeholders. This may not just be management. Stakeholders may be all the way down to the administrative assistant sitting at the front desk. This project is going to help that person. Goals of the project, so we know at the end, did we meet those goals? So just like I have you set a goal for the class, here's an idea of setting a goal for the project. And what are the objectives? What are we going to do? So case tool example, you're a systems analyst, the visible analyst case tool. So planning statements can include things like assumptions and goals, objectives, things we just talked about. Critical success factors, so do we have to get this done in a certain amount of time? Time tends to be a big challenge for successful projects, so keep that in mind. And many other types of statements can be included. So the role of the IT department in project evaluation, so management, leadership, information technology, all closely linked. Most of the time today, information technology systems are the foundations for business. Sometimes you have to remind business owners of that because they're so focused on the fact that we make product X or we make product Y, they forget that the way they make that product is through the use of information technology systems. If those systems disappeared today, could they make the product? If they can't, then suddenly IT systems take a larger role in the company. So, remarkable changes have occurred in both areas, definitely. I mean, look at the cloud. Look at what we're carrying on our phones today. We're doing business via phones. Today, systems development is much more team-oriented. So we've got back to that idea that the more people we have, perhaps the better the project will be. But keep in mind, the more people we have, the more opinions we have, the more ideas we have, and the longer the project may take, or the more opportunity for what's called scope creep. Gee, we went out to design A, and all we need is A, but boy, wouldn't it be nice if B, C, D, E, and a year later we don't have a viable product up and running. Team-oriented is the norm. Some companies see the role as the IT department as sort of the gatekeeper. In companies I worked for, normally the IT department was the manager of the projects. So it was a real opportunity to understand business, to understand finance, and come at a project. When I came at an IT project, really the first thing I would ask is the IT solution the best solution for the proposed project? So future, who knows what it holds. We certainly are venturing into new industries. 10 years ago, did we have the social media industry that we have today? Did we have products? Did we have services? Things are certainly changing, and as they change, information systems analysis becomes even more important and imperative as more things turn to the cloud. Just because we're getting rid of that traditional network infrastructure and applications inside the business doesn't mean we're going to stop building applications. It certainly doesn't mean we're all going to go towards one solution to meet our business needs. So a business case should be comprehensive, yet easy to understand. So keep in mind when writing business cases or writing documentation for a project, keep it simple. It's not the technicians and nerds that necessarily are the only people reading it. So it may be somebody at the lower level, it may be upper management that has no idea what exactly is available or what's current within information technology. So a lot of times you find in an initial business case, you'll write an education document. What is this for? How can we use it, etc. So should describe the project clearly, provide the justification to proceed, the estimate of the project's financial impact. That's an area that can be really, really tough, but that's an area that you really need to focus on. So remember, as you do your projects, I expect to see very comprehensive amounts of money, because where scope creep and where a lot of projects fail is we put $100,000 towards this. We should have been able to get it done in 6 months. Here we are, we spent $120,000. It's 6 months later, and we still don't have a product or project or system that's providing return on investment. So keep that in mind. Main reasons for system projects, I talked about a few of these earlier. Improved services, reduced costs, stronger control. So quality control. Inventory control, knowing exactly what's in inventory so we can start purchasing items just in time so that we don't have that expense of a high dollar item sitting on the shelf for 6 months before we can sell it. That all leads to better performance and, of course, support for new products and services. So factors that affect system projects, boy, there are just a ton of them. Everything, internal existing systems that we need to integrate with, that can be a real challenge, especially, if they're older systems or built on database infrastructures that are no longer used, all those things. The IT department can affect a project. Are they willing to take it on? Is there the technology? Do they believe? The biggest thing internally is users. Not only user requests, but users, the people that are going to actually have to interact with the system. Are they supportive of the project? Have you gotten them involved early enough? When doing a project, it's not only about doing and completing the project, but it's about selling the project and the benefits of the project to the people that are going to be required to use it to make it a success. So keep that in mind. Top managers, do they support it? I always really encouraged and literally forced top managers to come into a project early. Even though they may not be involved throughout the whole project, they need to come in and tell everybody in the room, look, this is a company-focused project. You are expected to work on it. You are expected to make this happen. And I, as the leader of the company, need this in place. So it's huge. If people don't see top management supporting a project, a lot of things can happen. Someone else tries to take on that role of the top person involved in the project. You get too many people with opinions and not enough people working on it. Does the company have a strategic plan? And then, of course, we get to the other factors. Technology, do we have it? Is it available to do the project? Are suppliers on board? Is this affecting customers? Competitors, how's it going to affect them? The economy, especially now, economy downturn, a lot of IT projects got put on hold. We just don't have the money. We got to keep our business running so that perhaps we can do the project later. And then, of course, things like government, great example of that. And the cloud, SOPA, what's going to happen with SOPA? Well, currently it's dead, but you can bet other bills like SOPA are going to come up, and are they going to affect? Great example of that right now is the push towards electronic medical records. A lot of projects being done because the government's saying, look, we want those records to be efficient, we want them online, we want them available, and we're actually going to start charging you in 2015 higher tax rates if your medical facilities aren't running on EMR. So keep that in mind as well. So project management, if it's approved, it can be planned, scheduled, monitored, controlled, and reported. There needs to be a single person involved at the highest level of a project. This is the project manager. This is the top person. Now, does it mean that that's the top dog? Not necessarily. It just means that there's that person who manages the project, keeps it on task, keeps its workers on task, and of course is sort of if there's a question, the person that makes that final decision if it's 2 against 2 per se. Individual analysis or IT staff members often handle those small projects. Companies usually designate a project manager and coordinate the overall effort for complex projects. Realize with small companies, and that's the majority of what you're going to be working for or consulting for, you take on all that role, the project management role, as well as almost a lot of times down to the project grunt role. So you're doing everything with the project. But if that's you, make sure that you don't just take off and do the project. get the company involved, get the employees involved, so you don't just throw over the fence a system that they didn't know was coming, that they don't know how to use, and that they weren't engaged in developing. You get that support early, projects tend to have a higher percentage chance of succeeding. So, systems review committee on a computer resources committee evaluates system requests. So this shouldn't just be an IT person who says we can or can't, or we should or we shouldn't. There should be a committee, and again, that committee should be made up of representatives throughout the company. Now, we're not talking about a 10-person committee, maybe 4 to 5 people who meet on a regular basis to say, here's all the project requests we have, which ones are viable, which ones do we throw out now, which ones do we do more research to figure out which ones we're going to take on. So, system request forms. I'll give you some examples in class of some request forms that I've seen used and that I've used. But we need to start the idea of documenting the process early and getting it down for future reference. When we do projects, we always want to keep a log or a database of project proposals so we can go back and say, oh, look, that project was proposed, but at the time, perhaps we couldn't do it. Now we need to go back and not only look at new proposals, but other proposals that may still be viable for the business. So those review committees, large companies tend to have them that evaluate the system requests. Smaller companies rely on one person. A lot of times this could be you as the IT expert. What do you think? And again, I would encourage you to get those managers and other people involved. So getting people involved early, I can't say it enough, is key to project success. The goal is to evaluate the request and set priorities of all the requests coming in. Again, feasibility, sort of redundant here, but is it feasible? Do we have the money? Do we have the staff? Do we have the time? Time tends to be a big one. You hear a lot of time, we need this when? Yesterday. That's right. We need it yesterday. And when you start a project with a need of yesterday, you're already behind the gun, and a lot of times the project fails because they're looking for it way sooner. So you have to set that expectation of, hey, you want this done in a month, but if you want it done in a month, I'm not sure even 20 programmers could get it done in a month. So a lot of times when the time is limited, the cost skyrockets. So feasibility depends on several vital issues. Those are the issues. Technical feasibility, again, can we do it? Economic feasibility, do we have the money to do it? What are the tangible benefits? A lot of times we take on projects for the intangible benefits. We don't know if it's going to produce the result we want, but we know we have to go down that role. So tangible benefits are pretty clear. We make a project for a product for $15, and doing this IT project is going to reduce that cost to $14.25 per product. We can easily see the results. Intangible might be something like, well, we're expecting a 20% increase in sales from doing this because we're going to support the product better. Or we're expecting that this project is going to decrease rejects, but we don't know until it's put into place and running. We expect to garner more customers from this marketing project. Marketing is one of those intangible things where, where's the beef, for example? That ad took off and went viral before viral was even out, right? But it could have just as easily failed. Example of that, Microsoft, sort of the I'm a PC copying Mac, was a failed marketing campaign. They spent a lot of money on it, and I doubt that the increased revenues even paid for the marketing campaign. So keep in mind, again, not just IT systems, but business as well. The schedule feasibility, do we have the time? First step is evaluating feasibility is to identify and weed out the system requests that are not feasible. 20 years ago, I need some way to talk to my computer. Not feasible, don't have the technology, it doesn't work. Of course, I'm giving you clear examples. So even if the request is feasible, it might not be necessary. You know, feasibility analysis is an ongoing task. So again, what's feasible, not feasible today, may be feasible a year from now. We have the money, we have the time, whatever the case may be, and the project becomes important. So setting priorities, again, will the proposed system reduce costs? Where, how? Will it increase revenue? Where, how, when, how much? A lot of times these things cannot be clear to define. You do your best to define it, and I always leveraged on being very cautious with the numbers that I would give back. So there's the old saying, when you're starting a business and you think you need 100,000, double it. It's the same thing here, but on the other end. If you think it's going to create $100,000 worth of increased revenue over a year, say it's going to increase 50. And with 50, is it still viable to do? So, you know, be conservative with your numbers. Be conservative with the time. If you beat that time estimate, hey, we can do this in a year, and you come in at 11 months, that's great. But when you say we're going to do it in a year and you come in 14 months, not so good. So I'm going to stop right here. I'm going to go to slide 21, and I'm going to start the next part of the lecture at slide 21. Take care.